let's talk about what is the deployment. So all that we have discussed so far about Kubernetes and cluster and the master node, worker node, pods, service, all these configurations can be wrapped in something called as a deployment component. So deployment component is an abstraction over everything that we talked about. So if we have multiple applications, multiple databases, then we can wrap all this information into one single deployment and then do a deployment to our cluster. And this particular single deployment can be directly deployed to our cluster. So in this deployment, we can also define how many replicas we want to create and how many, when do we want to do an auto scale and when do we want to do a downscale. All this configuration we can put in this single deployment. So how do we create this deployment? We have to basically create a YAML file or a JSON file, and we have to write all the commands that we want to go in this deployment. Let's say we have application, two databases, conditions for auto scaling, downscaling, the replica sets. All this we will write in this YAML or the JSON file. Then what we will do? Then we have to feed this JSON file or the YAML file to the API server of the master node using either the UI or the API or CLI. So when I say CLI, we have a popular tool called kubectl that helps to run this YAML or the JSON file commands onto our API server of master node. Once we have done this, then what happens is this configuration or present in this YAML file or the JSON file is passed from the API server to the master node scheduler, and then it goes to the controller manager, and then the controller manager puts it to the final worker nodes, and then the kubelet running on the final worker node is going to execute this command on that worker node so that the effect is going to take place. So there are other tools also which makes life simple for different deployments and rollbacks and upgrades. One such tool is Helm Chart Manager. So Helm is a tool like we have different tools, let's say for installing different things. Let's say I want to install a new package on a Linux environment. So I have this apt command that I run. We have a pip for Python. So similarly, we have an installer or a package manager, or let's say the Helm package manager or Helm chart manager that takes care of this all these configurations that we will create for multiple deployments. And then if we want to do an upgrade to a deployment, if we want to remove a deployment, if we want to uh, know how many deployments are running at any point of time, so those things get simplified if we use tools like Helm Chart Manager. So this is what is about deployment and how deployments helps us to deploy instructions to the master node, and then it gets passed through to the worker node for the changes to take effect in. Thank you.